Hey, boys and girls, Doug Giles here. It's Warriors, Rich,
and Wildmen. What's happening, Doug?
Hey, I'll tell you what's happening. We are going to re-air an incredible conversation that we had with one of my good buddies for many, many moons, Dinesh D'Souza. Rich, do you remember that interview?
I remember it because I'm a Dinesh D'Souza fan. I'm not a fan of a lot of people, but I'm a Dinesh D'Souza fan. And I learned some incredible things on that podcast. And some things that really changed my mind, the way that I look at things, especially the liberal agenda. So it was an awesome podcast.
Hey, I tell you what, we talk about how people are trashing America all the time. Dinesh wrote a book, I think it was back in 2004, maybe 2005, called What's Great About America.
Yep.
So not only enjoy this podcast that we did with Dinesh a couple of years ago, but get his book, What's Great About America, because he comes from India. He writes it as an immigrant. And it is one of the greatest defenses of the United States of America that you will never hear in a public school or a public university. So enjoy the podcast and get Dinesh's book, What's Great About America.
Yep. And then some of the references will be dated because it was aired a few years ago. So don't be thrown off about that. The things that he said almost look a little bit prophetic because those things are coming to pass now. So enjoy this podcast.
Hey guys, Doug Giles here, little Warriors and Wildmen action. Rich, how you doing, big dog?
Doing great, Doug. Excited about the show today.
Yeah, I got an old buddy. I don't think I've seen him in, it's been like 10 years or something like that. And he's still a hellraiser, still a troublemaker. He's got a new movie out called Death of a Nation. And for the uninitiated, if you don't know Dinesh D'Souza, then number one, shame on you. And number two, let me bring you to speed. Dinesh is the best-selling author and filmmaker. His films, 2016, Obama's America and America, Imagine the World Without Her. They're number 2 and number 6 highest-grossing political documentaries of all time, respectively. His movie about Hillary's America put a big dent in that lardy hagfish. Dinesh, welcome to Warriors and Wildmen. How you doing?
Hey, good, thanks. I'm glad to be on the show.
Yeah, I hadn't seen your movie yet, but you know what? It's freaking showing at the theaters, believe it or not. And it's a rainy day today, kind of a bluesy Monday. So me and my wife are going to rock up this afternoon and take it in. And the theater actually serves beer and whiskey, so it's going to be a great day.
That is pretty awesome. Yeah, the movie's been out now, I think, 5 weeks. It's been doing well. It'll, of course, come out in DVD next month before the election. And boy, does it tell a whole new story about racism and fascism. These are the two accusations, of course, that the left has been hurling at Trump and at the conservatives. But when you see the movie, you get a completely different picture.
Hey, for our audience, when's the last time the Democrats fanatically refused to accept the result of a free election?
Well, I was thinking, contemplating the craziness that's been going on since Trump got elected. I thought to myself, I haven't seen this in my lifetime. You have to go back all the way to 1860, when, of course, an outsider, a Republican named Lincoln, was elected, and all hell broke loose. And the rival party, just happened to be the Democratic Party, would not accept the result. In the North, the Democrats were calling for Lincoln to be killed, which happened later. In the South, the Democrats were ready to break up the country. So we've been here before. And of course, that one didn't end well. It led to a civil war. The reason I call this movie Death of a Nation shows what's at stake. But I think in this case, a civil war can be averted if we are well informed and if we are courageous.
Wow. So it's obvious that people are so crazy. The divide's crazy. It's not like something like we're disagreeing on a couple little things. And we were talking about civil war recently, and it's so harshly divided. I mean, how do we avoid that?
Well, American politics used to be an argument about two different views of the world, but the argument was a gentleman's argument. I mean, if I think back to the Reagan era, there was certainly a lot of contentiousness, but there was also a sense that we agreed that we both wanted America to be strong. We both wanted America to be prosperous. We might disagree about how the pie should be carved, but that we wanted a pie and a big pie, and none of this was really at issue. I think what's happened is the Democratic Party has become gangsterized since Obama and Hillary. And they have been using the weapons of the state against their opponents. Yeah. And the Democrats have now become, you may say, the party of the police state, the party of illegal immigration. I mean, who thought that a major political party would become an advocate for lawlessness and a champion of breaking the law, defenders of these Antifa thugs roaming the campuses and looting in major cities? All this craziness has been going on, and it's been going on supported and cheered by the media. So Trump has become a major inconvenience to all of this, and this is why the other side is going crazy.
Wow.
Hey, Dinesh, were you shocked when you found out that you were a fascist and a racist and a white supremacist?
Well,
because I was stunned. No one
who sees Death of a Nation will think about those terms in the same way again. I mean, just to give you a simple example of a kind of a bombshell in the movie, I point out that all the leading white nationalists in the country have a deep background on the left. I have chapter and verse in my book, Death of a Nation. In the movie, I bring on the poster boy of white supremacy, this guy named Richard Spencer, who has been consistently described as a right-wing white supremacist. But when you watch the movie talking out of his own mouth, it becomes really obvious that here's a guy who's on the left, and the media has been giving us a completely fake narrative of Charlottesville, of white supremacy, and of the true meaning of fascism.
Rich?
Yeah, I have a question on that, on racism. I was just on Twitter with a black pastor, and he has a small church of about 25,000 people. And we were private messaging each other. And he said there are two types of racists: those who are racist and know it, and those who are racist who don't. And every comment that he made to me that we disagreed was basically, and you know why you feel like that. So how are we supposed to respond when everything, like, I don't like Obama, and I told him I didn't like Obama because he's a raging liberal and a socialist, and I oppose those things. As a Christian, I oppose the things that he stands for. I don't stand for killing babies. That's how it goes. And he's convinced that it's because he's black.
Right, and the reason that he thinks that is because he has bought into a complete fake narrative. Now, the fake narrative is that the Democrats might have been the party of racism at one time, but the two parties switched sides. That somehow Richard Nixon, with his typical Nixonian cunning, went to the Deep South and convinced the racist Dixiecrats to become Republicans. That is the whole underlying basis for the idea that today conservatives and Christians are under suspicion for bigotry. But that narrative is itself fake because, number one, no one has ever uncovered a racist campaign statement by Nixon. Number two, Nixon didn't even campaign in the Deep South, which was won not by Nixon, but by George Wallace, the Democratic segregationist. Number three, Nixon is the inventor of affirmative action. This is the guy who implemented America's first affirmative action program. So does that sound like a guy who's campaigning for the Deep South racist vote? Nonsense. And number four, in the movie, I put up the names of all the racist Dixiecrats. It's about 100 of them. And I count how many of them moved to the Republican Party. And the correct answer is two. One in the House, Albert Watson, and one in the Senate, Strom Thurmond. And every other racist Dixiecrat lived and stayed and died in the Democratic Party.
Wow.
Hey, Dinesh, I've got grandkids now. I'm looking in the crystal ball in regards to their education. And because I love my grandkids, I'm going to earnestly exhort my daughter, Hannah, to make certain that she never puts them in a public school, because all the stuff that you just rattled off that's in Death of the Nation and about the democratic strongholds of racism and violence and socialism, that's not taught there. They're being taught that the left is yummy, the right is evil, and all the stuff that you just went through, you'd hear nary a peep in the typical public schoolroom.
Yeah, even on the fascism stuff, a lot of this business didn't start with Trump. It goes back to World War II. Well, before World War II, fascism was recognized to be on the left. Hitler knew it was on the left. The Nazi newspapers were all praising FDR in the 30s. I quote from this in the movie. FDR and Mussolini formed a mutual admiration society. They were both saying wonderful things about each other. Mussolini actually reviewed FDR's book in an Italian magazine, and he says, I'm giving him the highest compliment I can give him. He's a fascist. This is Mussolini talking about FDR. And so all of this stuff, it's been swept under the rug. By whom? By the progressives who came to power in the 40s and 50s and began to dominate academia and the media. So they were able to control this narrative, and blowing the whistle on those guys and bringing to light this secret history that they can't refute any of it. It's all there in the historical record. It's all documented. But they've been able to keep it from being on the History Channel, and they've kept it out of Wikipedia. And so a lot of young people, even in private colleges, don't know this stuff.
Yeah, it's sad, man. Richard.
Yeah, I have another question is, why is it that they're targeting Christians? Why are they so opposed to Christianity, and they're not consistent? One of my problems is that they're never consistent. They support Islam because they're exclusive, and I mean, they support them even though they're exclusive and destructive, but then they're against Christians.
Someone once told me that behind every double standard is a single standard that refuses to disclose itself. No one is truly inconsistent. When we think about the guys who championed the Berkeley free speech movement in the 60s, it's very obvious that what they meant at that time was free speech for us. They didn't care about free speech in general. So that once they came to power, they were happy to suppress somebody else's speech. So they're only inconsistent if you assume that they believe in the principle of free speech and are applying it in somehow an inconsistent way. But no, they don't really believe in it. They're fighting to give themselves room to operate, but they're perfectly happy to constrain the other guy.
See, that makes sense, because they're trying to take away free speech, take away the right to bear arms, and ultimately the freedom of religion. I mean, they're completely against the Constitution. What's happening?
Well, their alliance with radical Islam is purely tactical. They know that the radical Muslims are targeting the same principles that they oppose in another context. So this is a case where the enemy of my enemy is my friend, and multiculturalism, which has no room, let's say, for evangelical Christians. It has no room for conservatives. It certainly has no room for white nationalism. It has room for Latino nationalism and every other type, black nationalism, every other type of nationalism. So what's going on here is ultimately the Democrats, they're trying to create, I call them ethnic plantations. Now, of course, in the old days, the Democrats were all about the slave plantation, which was an ethnic plantation, but for one group, blacks. Now they want not just ghettos for blacks, they want barrios for Latinos, they have reservations for Native Americans. They want to take every ethnic group and create some intergenerational system of dependency.
Wow.
This is how the whole party is organized. That's their organizational principle.
Wow. And then people are stuck in the past. I heard a guy, I can't remember his name, but I heard a guy talking about that, and he said the problem is that a lot of people are brain chained to a field on a plantation that they never worked in. And so because they're stuck in that mindset, they can't move ahead. And I think that's the problem that I'm having, is not recognizing that there are some problems, in racism in America, some things that need to be addressed. But we have to turn and start focusing on where we're going. How can we fix some things?
Yeah, the real institutional racism in America is on the Democratic plantation. And the plantation is maintained by a certain type of dependency and fear. People think, wow, if I leave the plantation, where would I go? There's a very insightful comment that Mary Chestnut, she was the wife of a Democratic Senator, James Chestnut, and she wrote a diary during the Civil War. And she says, wait a minute, everyone keeps telling me about how the slaves hate to be on the plantation and they ready to leave. She goes, well, all our men are fighting on the front. Why don't the slaves leave the plantation right now? I can't keep them. We only have women and children here, but the slaves don't leave. And the point she's making, which is a very profound point, is that there is such a thing as mental enslavement. There is such a thing that you're so scared and the only life you know is this, that you don't even know how you could survive outside of that. And I think that this is the principle of fear on which the Democrats maintain their ethnic plantations today.
Hey, Dinesh, when you were ramping up for this movie, did you get any opposition from the evangelical Never Trumpkins?
Well, those guys are, I think are kind of missing the point of this whole political fight. I mean, American politics has always fought in teams. And these are guys who are pining for the Reagan era. They basically want a different kind of politics. And just to a certain point, I sympathize with them. I kind of came of age with many of these dudes. And yes, we'd like to have a politics that's more But the problem is that when the other party has become gangsterized, how do you stop them from doing what they're doing to you if you don't do it to them? Lincoln understood this perfectly well. Lincoln realized that the kind of stuff that was going on, once the atmosphere changed, even though Lincoln was a very mild-mannered and moderate guy, he had to become extremely tough because he knew the Democrats were out of control.
So as a foreign-born American, it's got to tick you off, man, to see groups like La Raza and these other splinter groups and little ghettos that Rich was talking about, Whiz on America. What's great to you about this experiment in self-governance?
Well, to me, speaking not even in a philosophical way, I mean, when I first came to America, I was struck by the fact that, look, I've seen countries where wealthy people could have a good life, but I'd never seen a country before where the ordinary guy has such a good chance of a good life. So many ladders of opportunities in which you can be the architect of your own destiny, not just become well off, but live the kind of life that you want for yourself. I mean, look at my career. I'm doing the kind of things I can in this country that I couldn't possibly do just about anywhere else. So all of this became really obvious to me. And then I realized that there was a politics behind it, the politics of the American founding. It wasn't an accident that America became this way. It was actually designed to be this way. And I also realized that there's a big fight about this formula, you might say, and that as a conservative, all I'm doing is conserving the principles of the American founding. In other words, conserving those ladders of opportunity that made the kind of life that I enjoy in America today possible.
Hey, Dinesh, we got you for about another 90 seconds. Why should the Warriors and Wildmen subscriber take their hard-earned dollars and lay it down to watch your movie?
Well, I make the movies and I do books that go with the movies, and they kind of go together. The book is sort of the chapter and verse. It has all the documentation that you need. The movie is a combination of an emotional narrative and something that is inspiring and motivating. I mean, it is not uncommon anywhere in the country. It doesn't matter if it's red or blue America. When people see the movie, the whole audience will stand up and applaud at the end. Think of how rare that is in the theater to see that happen. We have audience ratings of over 90%. It's a fun movie to watch, and when you leave, you're like, wow, there's a whole bunch of stuff in there I had no idea about. And then the book gives you the documentation for why it's all true.
Dinesh D'Souza, ladies and gentlemen. Hey, Dinesh, thanks for being on Warriors and Wild Men. The movie, again, Death of a Nation, and bring the kiddies, right? There's no nudity or shooting heroin or anything like that in there, is
No, it is PG-13, so you don't need to bring a 1 or a 2-year-old. But on the other hand, if you got a kid in school or in college, they're going to get a lot out of it.
Hey, great stuff, man. Praying for your mad continued success.
Thank you very much.
Great talking to you. Thanks, Dinesh.
All right. Bye-bye.
Cheers, buddy.
So, Doug, in the conversation with Dinesh, it was blowing my mind. There's some things that he said that I literally have thought about some of those things, trying to figure them out, and I couldn't figure them out. And I was talking about the inconsistencies. Why are they not consistent? And he said, no, behind every double standard is a single standard. And aligning with Islam because it's a common enemy. I don't know why that escaped me. I can't even tell you how many hours I've spent thinking about that. And obviously, we know that the enemy is the same, but I don't know. Maybe my brain couldn't get past it.
Yeah, no, I've always thought it odd that the left and Islam would be strange bedfellows, but they're united in hatred. It's a negative unity.
Yeah.
And what's funny is that once the left, if it ever happens, God forbid, and I don't think it is, because again, and we've talked about this a gazillion times, they're nuttier than a squirrel turd. Their worldview is found wanting. Everywhere it's been tried, and everybody's like, well, it hadn't been tried in America yet. Well, if it's collapsed, 100+ nation states, everywhere it's been tabled, then
and collapsing states in America.
Then maybe it's in cities. Then maybe it is truly untenable, and it's a failed feckless program. But say in a weird nightmare, they do take power, they do get in control, and then they start implementing their worldview. They're going to go lax on Islam, and Islam's going to come over here and beat us like a redheaded stepchild. Because then then the alliance is clearly off, and I think
Then they'll
the
be looking
leftists,
to the Christians to be crusaders and defend them.
Yeah, the left and their lawlessness. Oh my gosh, man! They will be the first to get tossed off the Islamic bridge and head put on a spiked gate. Guarantee.
Yep.
But I think the thing that continues to floor me about Death of the Nation, and again I haven't seen it, but I've read up on it a lot, and we're gonna try, if it stops flooding around here, to get over to the theater this afternoon. Is a lot of this stuff, man. I guarantee it's not taught in college. Definitely not going to get it in your history lessons in junior high. The Democrats were the ones who made up the Klan. The Democrats were the majority of the slaveholders.
Hey, my son.
And it was a Republican president who said, you know what? We ain't going to be having this anymore. We're going to emancipate you.
That's right.
No, you listen to the left now. I'm a Nazi. You're a Nazi. Everybody's a Nazi. Old MacDonald had a bunch of bullshit. E-I-E-I-O.
That's it. My son Luke, Luke, he's a sophomore in high school, and in his history class, they were talking about slavery and different things, and my son said, yeah, but wasn't that the Democrats? He said, wasn't Abraham Lincoln, wasn't he a Republican? And the teacher said, yes, but the parties actually switched. And my son said, can you explain that to us? Because I heard that was a lie.
So did the teacher go to the Nixon stuff that Dinesh was talking about?
No way. She doesn't even know that. They're so stupid.
Yeah.
You know what she said? I'm not going to talk about this with you right now. And my son said, that's what
I
everybody...
win.
He said, that's what everybody says when they don't know what they're talking about.
Exactly. What else did he talk? Oh, here's another thing that I found interesting is how the left, the lovely, tolerant, pixie dust and unicorn scene, rainbow-colored left, they sure as hell, as Dinesh pointed out, they sure dote on these things called dictators. I mean, some of the worst critters, Che Guevara, Fidel Castro, both of those guys, when I was living in Miami, lots of Cuban buddies, lots of them went to my church. They liquidated their family. And I don't mean they just took their ranch. They murdered them, slaughtered them,
not their
shot
accounts.
them. And here these morons are sitting there talking about, health care in Cuba, like Michael Moore and how great it is over there. Oh, by the way, I don't know if you saw the divorce report from the Crisco sweating Michael Moore. His wife said that all that money that he made in his movies, it's like, I'm not getting diddly squat of it. And I thought Michael, Rich, I thought he was into,
socialism,
sharing the wealth, spreading the love, but evidently, not to who he was betrothed to for 20 plus years. But don't let that get in the way. Fidel's good, Che's good, Chavez is good. Look what they have done to their nations and the people that they have slaughtered. And yet, they're happy clappy.
And they like them. And what, you said something funny. You said they like these dictators. Growing up in my house, you know that my father's name is Dick. And one day we said something, and my dad said, hey, in this house, it's not a democracy. It's a dictatorship, and I'm Dick. So I don't know if that applies, but I just thought I'd throw that out there.
Yeah, and again, he's born in Mumbai, India, and I think, the point that he made is like, you know what? There's not a bad living to be had for those in the middle. In India,
you're either top or bottom. That's it.
Oh yeah, man, it's a beer or it's champagne. I was watching this old cat. I used to go to Starbucks. Please forgive me, Rich. When I lived in Miami on Sunny Isles Beach, beautiful place right across from the ocean, French Riviera of North America. And I'm sitting there, there's this guy who comes in there, he's probably about 65, 70, widower, still good-looking cat, still very much on the prowl. And I wasn't eavesdropping, they were just frickin' close to my table. And he's working his mojo on this beautiful Latina chick. And she knows that obviously he's well off. Nobody's at Sunny Isles unless you're homeless. That's not a multimillionaire. And she goes, so, how did you get all your money? What did you do? And without even pausing, man, he goes, I got my money. He said, how I got the opportunity that I have and live the life that I've been able to live? I live in America. You can't do this in other countries. And I nearly flipped over in my seat because you don't hear that kind of praise up in North Miami Beach about the United States of America
No.
too often. It's pretty rare. And,
Yeah.
Go ahead,
and it is. This is the greatest country in the world, and people think that that's, it's egocentrism. I like what I have the best. It's my country. I love it. But those are facts. That's not because we live here. It's the greatest country in the world, history of the world. Another thing that Dinesh brought up that I thought was powerful is that the Democrats really want to keep people on their plantations or their barrios or in their segregated, dependent state on the government. Man, that's some good stuff right there. Because they don't want them to succeed. That's why they don't like Trump.
Well, look what they did to Kanye. Kanye stumps for Trump, says a couple of positive things. Same thing with Kim Kardashian, other athletes, whether they're black, white, brown, or polka dot. Anytime somebody who's, or someone in Hollywood who is, supposed to be this frickin' lockstep, jackbooted liberal, if they say anything that's quasi-positive about Trump at all, then you see them gone after with the hooded soldiers of the left to drag them back onto the plantation, man.
Hey,
That's some scary crap.
That happened just a couple days ago in my church in Yuma on a much smaller scale. A young girl that goes to the church, she's Hispanic. She took a picture of a truck driving down the road in Yuma with a Mexican flag flying from it, probably half the size of the truck. I'm not kidding, it was a giant, maybe not half the size, but it was big, like third the size. Massive Mexican flag. Takes a picture, puts it on there and says, hey, what about America? If you like Mexico, go back. She posts that. Dude, she got destroyed on Facebook because she's Mexican. And so she texted me. I said, hey, just delete the thing. Who cares? Move on. She deleted it. They screenshotted it and posted it on this low-life loser thing that Yuma does. I don't know what it is. And she started getting like 30 or 40 private messages of people calling her a whore and all this stuff. Like she had to give her phone to her husband to delete all that stuff. That's that's crazy, Doug.
Hey, Rich, that's a story. If she's got any of this captured, any kind of screen grabs or anything like that, send it over to clashdaily.com. And if there is somebody that we can, isolate and freeze as the one who's given her all this hell and for saying that which is right and she has the right to do, then we'll come and crap down their throat and we'll put it out to our mailing list.
I don't know if she can do it.
She's
a young man. She fell apart just from that. Even before they started roasting her, she cried, and I don't know if she could take it.
Yeah, here's something that she learned the hard way. You and I have understood it for a long time.
Yep.
We went through it. Our family did when Hannah took on Obama's claim to fame and got them giving home loans for whorehouses for underage sex slaves from El Salvador. You better grow some thick hide, folks, because when you take a firm stand against the ludicrous left, they're going to level their sights on you.
Especially if you're a minority.
Yeah, and it gets weird, man. You can't wander off the plantation. You can't think different thoughts if you're a liberal. And, you've got to be good slaves to the machine. I got a lot of guys, Rich, that are Christian and conservative, and some of them have differing opinions about various things, social issues, economic issues, our involvement in the Middle East in regards to national security. And you know what? Good for them. Yep. I'm not going to blacklist them. I'm not going to tell them they're I'm not going to drop the F-bomb on them or call them the C word or anything like that. But the left will.
Yep,
and
in a second.
Folks, you need to realize that's where they go immediately. And you got to, again, like I said, you got to develop the resilient thick hide of a crocodile if you're going to roll in this terse environment.
Hey, and let me throw this out there. Okay, so let's say we disagree on something. We disagree, right? No problem. We can even have a heated debate about it. Say the Kaepernick kneeling during the national anthem, disrespecting the flag. To me, that's what it is. Some people have a different opinion about that. They can have that opinion. I'm going to share my opinion. But here's the thing, Doug. You don't get to freaking tell me that I don't get to have an opinion. You don't get to tell me what I get to be outraged about. And you don't get to tell me that if I don't agree with you, I'm a racist. You don't tell me jack. I'll let you say whatever you want. You don't tell me anything. I'll even try to understand your point. But you don't get to tell me that I don't get to get pissed. I'm an American too. That's the dumbest crap I've ever heard.
Well, not if not if you're a liberal. That's their way, man. Conformity, bullying, and
maybe it's time to start smacking people in the teeth.
To me it's so laughable that everything that they say that we are, the intolerance aspects that they continually lob in our court, is part and parcel of their multivitamin makeup.
Yep.
It's what they take. It's what they're on every day. And it couldn't become more laughable. And hopefully the Warriors and Wildmen people, you're seeing it and you're enjoying it and and you're busting their chops on it every chance you get. Do it during, we got Thanksgiving coming up, got Christmas coming up. You get that gnarly, nasty aunt of yours. It's got a little mustache, and she just loves Hillary and Elizabeth Warren and Nancy Pelosi and Maxine Waters and Sheila Jackson Lee. Let her have it. Wait till she's got her mouth full of food, and then just drop some truth bomb on her about how her party blows. And watch, it might make the dinner a little bit more exciting than it has been heretofore.
And then remind those people of this, Doug. Brushing is good for your teeth.
Yeah,
You know what else is good for your teeth? Watching your freaking mouth. That's also good for your teeth.
Hey, Rich. Rich, before we sign off, man, I hate to personally challenge you to something. You ready?
Do it. I'm ready, Doug.
Bro, drag your church to go see Death of a Nation.
I literally was thinking about just getting everybody to go.
Hell yeah, man, because everybody's like, it's Christian movie night, and they go to these. And again, I appreciate any stab in the arts that's done with excellence and creativity.
I'm still waiting to see that.
A lot of Christian movies.
I haven't seen that yet. I've tried. I actually gave up.
A lot of Christian movies have plot holes that are bigger than Rosie O'Donnell's fishnet stockings when she's trying to high step a barbed wire fence.
How about Left Behind? I took my boys to see Left Behind, and we left, and they felt guilty, and they said, Dad, that movie, the acting and everything was terrible. And I said, that's almost as bad as their theology.
Right. They've got shitty acting and shitty theology. At least, Rich, they're consistent. Here's something, like if we got pastors watching, or college pastors or youth pastors, take your stupid flock to this movie and educate them.
Yeah.
And it doesn't just and to me, this is a Christian movie, because Christianity, at least the Christian worldview, is what the infrastructure of this grand experiment in self-governance was founded upon.
Well,
and if we lose this nation, and if we lose midterms in 2020 in the general, then you religious people, you might think that you've won by getting Trump out of the office, or pretty much neutralizing him where he's unable to do anything legislatively. But you're going to watch your religious liberties evaporize like a pack of smokes at an AA meeting, and you mark my word. And to me, I wouldn't want a dumb congregation, Rich. I mean, when I pastored, it's like, hey, we're going to go watch this movie.
I had a dumb
go to this
congregation, but most of them were the people who thought they were educated.
Yeah, nobody's as dumb as the one who thinks he ain't. But
he isn't dumb.
Yeah. Hey, take your flock to see this movie. And, oh my gosh, man, you talk about a juicy conversation afterwards. And I bet a lot of pastors won't do it. Aside from taking them,
Dinesh
just
is a
recommending.
Christian.
Of course he is. He was the president of King's College.
That's the basis of his worldview. It's not that Dinesh is a Republican. That's why. No, he's Christian. And because he's a Christian, he's a very strong conservative. And that forms his worldview. And that's why what he has to say is important.
Yeah, especially college pastors. You got those hipsters that are smoking clove cigarettes, and they're quoting Mao Zedong or Lenin or Che Guevara or Castro. Drag their skinny ass to this film and do a little Q&A afterwards. I guarantee it'll probably be one of the best things a pastor could do for his congregation is to sit something like this in front of their eyeballs and
affect their worldview.
as they're wolfing down a 64-ounce Coke that you could park a jet ski in, and eating a bucket of popcorn, man, that looks like a bucket of oats for a horse, then maybe they'll learn something. Maybe something will slip in
That
about
bag
how
of
important.
popcorn should come with a head strap.
You know, it's funny. I'll go up there and I like popcorn, and I don't
I'll tear
normally
up some popcorn, dude.
And I don't normally drink Coke, but for some weird reason, when I go to the theater, now that they got alcohol, I usually go for a beer and
I
stuff.
don't drink Coke hardly ever, and when I go to the movies, I gotta get a Coke and a bag of popcorn.
Yeah, and they'll say, I'll like a small popcorn and a small Coke, and they go, well, you can upsize for another $1 to this big old bucket of stuff. And like, listen, I gotta function for the next 2 days, and I've eaten that much popcorn at one time, and I had an impacted colon that I had to.
And the
I had to
salt
eat
that entered my system replaced the salt in the Salton Sea.
Yeah. No, man.
Hey, Doug,
I was chewing X-Lax like
the
a
Just Do It
nicotine
ads? The Just Do It,
Yeah.
all the memes that everybody's making. I saw the best one yet. Ricky Bobby quoting Colonel Sanders. I'm too drunk to taste this chicken. I love it because it has nothing to do with anything. I just post it and I enjoy it.
It's beautiful.
Oh, some people are taking life way too serious.
Hey, Rich, speaking of serious, what should the serious Warriors and Wildmen listener do right now, my friend, my buddy, my amigo?
If they haven't subscribed to Warriors and Wildmen Podcast, got to get over there and do that on whatever your medium. We have it available, whatever you want, however you take it, we will give it to you. Go on Facebook, like us, friend us, subscribe to our closed group, the Wildmen Tribe, and you can get some good stuff on there. Warriors and Wildmen. Get the man card, man. Got to do some epic stuff. Here it is.
Don't forget the man card. Get it.
It's metal. Do you have the metal to carry the man card?
It's your one-way ticket to midnight. Boom. Hey, thanks, guys, for watching, listening, following,
Doing what you
something
do.
like that. Yeah, man. Y'all stay rowdy.